Hello and welcome to the April 23rd episode of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. We have the news. We have a roll-in about the 3rd Arlington Town Hall meeting. We have Community Bulletin Board. We have 55 Plus News. And we have an interview with Libby Garvey conducted by Miriam Gennari. That's our show. But first, the social media reminder. You can watch the Arlington Weekly News on our YouTube channel, YouTube Arlington Weekly News and the number 1. Also on Facebook with extra features added therein. And also on the radio, WERA 96.7 FM. Now let's get on with the news. For our lead story, we are taking a break from our regular COVID-19 update to note the passing of County Board member Eric Gutschall. Mr. Gutschall succumbed to the brain cancer that forced his resignation from the board earlier this month. In his final message, Mr. Gutschall wrote, "My time in office has been the fulfillment of a dream." We may at least take some comfort in the knowledge that he was able to realize that dream, if only for a while. Here we go again. On March 9th, 2020, the first COVID-19 case in Arlington was announced. Reports as of Monday, April 13th, indicated that the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington was 390. As of Sunday evening, April 19th, reports show the number of confirmed cases as 575. And of course, these figures are still likely to increase because of restrictions of access to testing. As long as drive-up testing remains available only to symptomatic patients, the potential for the virus to spread between apparently healthy people will remain. While following an RLNow story about hospitalizations at the Virginia Hospital Center, we noted the following featured comment from the editor. We've deleted a dozen comments and put 3 or 4 commenters in varying degrees of timeout. The off-topic political discussions need to stop, or we're going to start issuing longer temporary and eventually permanent bans. We know lots of people are sitting around bored at home, but our readers come here for substantive discussions of local issues, not endless flame wars about national politics. We at Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News heartily endorse this policy regarding the need for intelligent civil discourse. Meanwhile, Arlington County has announced the creation of what they call the Arlington Small Business Emergency Grant. It's a program that is intended to provide grants of up to $10,000 to businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 50 employees. The grants may be used for employee salaries and benefits, as well as for other business capital and operating expenses directly related to the immediate impacts of COVID-19. The program was approved during a county board budget work session on April 16th and is expected to begin accepting applications in early May. Now it's time for a roll-in about the 3rd Arlington Town Hall meeting. This is Hef Munson from Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News with an update about the Arlington County Town Hall meeting. Arlington County held their 3rd weekly virtual town hall meeting on Friday, April 17th, and despite a slightly late start and one minor technical hitch, it was well worth the time. As promised last week, the principal topic was food. County board members in attendance were Libby Garvey, Katie Crystal, and Matt DeFerrante. Guests included Dr. Aaron Miller, Diane Kresh, Abby Raphael, and Amy McCloskey. Mr. DeFerrante opened by noting that no evictions were allowed for the time being and that the county was reaching out to keep both landlords and tenants informed. However, there was no mention of the concept of rent forgiveness. We bring this up because of a story in the New York Times in which a landlord with a few hundred tenants sent out a notice informing them all that there would be no rent charged for the month of April. When asked about his decision, the landlord declared that he was willing to accept the loss of thousands of dollars in exchange for the safety and peace of mind of his tenants. Admittedly, not every landlord in Arlington can afford to be so magnanimous, but it seems likely that at least a couple of them can, or at least grant a reduction. We would love to be able to report such an occurrence here in Arlington. Some better news was the announcement of $100,000 being given to AFAC, the Arlington Food Assistance Center, from the county's contingency fund. Meanwhile, economic development is trying to coordinate with local grocery stores to assure adequate levels of safety and social distancing. The Arlington County Public Schools are continuing their grab-and-go food service, which is open from Monday through Friday and provides breakfast and lunch. The recently formed Cooperative for a Hunger-Free Arlington is also coordinating and communicating with organizations such as Meals on Wheels and farmers markets, in addition to AFAC and Arlington's public schools. A question was raised about citizens who are financially well off but housebound due to age or physical limitations. The proposed solution was a buddy system in which a nearby neighbor would volunteer to make grocery runs or perform other errands. To facilitate the arrangements, Arlington Community Corps can liaise between those in need and those who can help. Another encouraging item was the donation of $75,000 by the Arlington Community Foundation. That was for more food. We did get a delayed answer to the question we asked last week about testing, but the answer was disappointing. Although the Virginia Hospital Center is continuing their drive-up testing program, and additional testing is available through LabCorp, Innova, and several urgent care facilities, the total number of tests completed in Arlington as of the meeting date was a little more than 2,100. Given Arlington's population of over 230,000, that is a rate of less than 1%. There was some hopeful talk about the social distancing and stay-at-home measures reducing the spread of the virus, with results expected after a 14-day period, but accurate projections from so small a sample size seem unlikely, especially given the observed non-compliance of some county residents. One important message was the fact that the food services will provide nourishment to everyone who comes by without requiring any identification. This means that people whose immigration status is in question need not fear exposure or retribution from seeking help. Katie Crystal raised a worthwhile observation regarding possible enforcement of any future mandate for the wearing of masks. If the objective is for everyone to wear a mask, it makes more sense to provide them with one than to charge them a fine for not having one. This was a very good observation. Some kindly citizens wanted to even donate their expected stimulus checks to help with food donations, and this was encouraged, especially for purchases of canned goods. That being said, after the meeting, Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News called AFAC to obtain some clarification and amplification of that message. There is an economy of scale involved. AFAC confirmed that if they receive cash donations, they can obtain bulk discounts on many food items. $50 spent at a grocery store at retail prices will buy more food if given to AFAC for bulk purchases. However, canned goods are the exception due to difficulties that suppliers are having. Therefore, the simple suggestion is, for canned food donations, go to the store. For other items, send cash to AFAC. The participation of some area faith groups was also acknowledged. Their food pantries have experienced a dramatic increase in attendance. Looking forward to the anticipated beginning of the next school year this fall, the idea of donations to help students with negative school lunch balances was raised. We feel that this is a nice idea, but we wonder, why not simply forgive the negative balances at the top administrative level? The savings of time and effort in tracking all the donations and balances would probably be worthwhile in and of itself. Toward the end of the meeting, the subjects of homelessness and hygiene were raised, and this raised another question that time did not permit asking. Before COVID-19, I could personally escort a homeless person into a restaurant such as the Subway in Ballston and treat them to a simple lunch. At that point, the homeless person became an official customer and would be granted access to the restroom where they could wash up. I did this on more than one occasion, making sure that the person I was helping understood and took appropriate advantage of their status as customer. Now the restaurants are offering carry-out only, so their hygienic facilities are no longer available. Worse yet, the Parks Department has closed and locked their restrooms. How is a homeless person or even a long-range hiker supposed to wash their hands with soap and water several times a day? That solution at least seems simple. Keep the courts locked, but unlock the facilities for public hygiene. The meeting closed at 1:04 p.m. with a final message from Mr. DeFerrante reminding everyone to stay home, wash their hands, and observe social distancing. We look forward to next week's productive gathering. Hef Munson signing off from Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Now it's time for CBB. As funny as a flood in a Fizzy's factory. As funny as a submarine with screen doors. To this list of old childhood similes you can now add the phrase, as funny as a fire in a Charmin factory, except that it really happened and wasn't very funny at all. A factory that manufactures Charmin brand toilet paper experienced a fire on March 30th, affecting about 10% of the Oxnard, California complex. No injuries were reported, and production of the tissue supposedly continued. According to one unnamed expert, the current store shortages are due entirely to panicked buying by consumers. It's hard to know where to place this next story. As a known news outlet, Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News has periodically received press releases and similar notices about upcoming events and potential stories. Sometimes the messages are completely appropriate for our local coverage, as was the case with the publication of Hidden History of Arlington by Charlie Clark. On the other hand, let's consider the following message. Here is the text. Times are quickly changing and parties are being moved from venues to Zoom calls. For new and expecting moms, this means baby showers have to be postponed, canceled, or moved to a virtual meeting. I'm reaching out to see if you are working on any virtual baby shower segments. If so, I would love for you to consider the below products that are still being shipped in a timely manner and will put a smile on a new mom's face. This message was followed by images and listings for a convertible crib for $169, a silicone baby bottle for $16.99, a multi-pack of 336 biodegradable wipes for $16.99, an organic cotton bib for $18, and something called a Baby Explorer Wind Drizzle Dribble Stick for $12.99. While we will not comment on the prices or the products themselves, this kind of news item amounts to nothing more than a pitch for us to create or incorporate unpaid advertising into a news show. What's more, the message comes not from Arlington, but New York. We have faithfully rendered the provided text of the message, but omitted product names because, in our opinion, the real news story here is not the concept of virtual baby showers, but the lengths to which some public relations firms will go in attempts to promote their clients. Finally, in CBB, Arlington Independent Media has decided to extend their spring fund drive with some special programming that they call The Show Must Go On. There will be special fund drive programming from April 27th through May 11th. This will include new and encore episodes on WERA 96.7 FM, interviews with local nonprofit leaders, and a new crowd-produced series called In These Times. From May 1st through May 10th, Arlington Independent Media will hold an online auction. Then on May 9th, there will be a virtual concert called The Show. It will feature area performers playing from their own living rooms and studios and feature such local luminaries as Kathy DeToro, Jamie Kay, Dan Barry, Kat Janis, The Diane Scream Show, Luke James Schaefer, and more. Tickets are only $5 and will be available through Arlington Independent Media. Now it's time for 55 Plus News. We communicated recently with Judy Masabny, who usually provides us with our 55 Plus news stories. Judy is doing well, mostly at home, but still able to make occasional excursions for shopping. Her neighborhood has already been coming together with special compliant events, including a walk-by wave from a traveling Easter bunny. It was a thrill for the kids waiting at the windows inside their homes. Judy says that within her Boulevard Manor neighborhood, other cooperative efforts are already in place. There are volunteers who assist with running errands for groceries or pharmacy items, and someone even provided some homemade protective masks free of charge. Judy has one of her own. Judy also mentioned that, although the usual 55 Plus website is nearly empty, there are other sources available for information, suggestions, and virtual events. Arlington County Parks and Recreation still sends out email messages with interesting articles to read and virtual events. One advantage of virtual events is that they are not physically strenuous and can be enjoyed from a spectator point of view. Yes, Virginia, we have prepared a third installment of Radio Free Filler, continuing in the spirit of the old USO radio broadcasts. It includes the comedy song Elevator Shoes and a radio-style parody of Dragnet, which, for purposes of filling time, we called Drag Out. You can find all 3 episodes on YouTube by searching for AWN Radio Free Filler. And since these videos are not monetized, there are no annoying commercial delays or interruptions. Now it's time for the last roll-in, a special interview with Libby Garvey, conducted by our own Miriam Gennari.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. I'm Miriam Gennari. I am thrilled to have Libby Garvey, our County Board Chair, with us today. Hello, Libby.
Hey, Miriam.
So in this time of complete chaos, something really wonderful has been germinating in Arlington. All of these great champions that we have been supporting and encouraging for years have stepped up, and from AFAC to ASPAN to Bridges, OAR, AIM, you name it, all these organizations are keeping the wheels on in Arlington. And in the midst of all that, you have created some spokes to these wheels so that we all stay connected. So can you tell us about some of these great organizations that are doing the logistics for all our champions?
Sure. Well, I didn't create these. I tend to be more of a catalyst. I've lived in Arlington for a long time. I've got quite a few networks. And when I saw what was happening I'm up for re-election, and I had a great kind of technology group helping me connect with people. And we realized about, I guess it's maybe 6 months ago now, or 6 weeks ago now, feels like 6 months, that campaigning, I just couldn't be doing it anymore. I had to really, everybody in this county needs to focus on the pandemic and what we need to do to keep things together. So one of the things was help form the the Arlington Community Corps. And that is just, there are many things popping up. There's also Neighbors Helping Neighbors. But the Community Corps, what we realized was really a hyper local way of connecting people with each other. And realized that we had kind of a technological base there that could really help us in this pandemic. But realized that people cannot necessarily notice when someone's not participating. In other words, everybody's doing the chat back and forth, but there's some people who don't do Facebook. There's some people who might do it for a while and then not be participating, and nobody would really notice. So we realized there's a need to get down on a really kind of the old-fashioned block captain. So all I did was basically say, all right, team, go and do this and work and set up this other thing. And they just took off and did it. Evan Burfield's been setting that up. He's great. And then part of that group was Abby Raphael. And as we started getting going on this and working it up, we started to realize that food was a really major issue, making sure everybody in Arlington has enough to eat. So she ended up breaking off as well. And she's now partnering with Diane Kresh, who's the director of our library services.
Yes.
And the two of them have now formed a cooperative for a hunger-free Arlington. And that is a whole new innovative way of bringing together all of the nonprofits. And they are wonderful. They've provided a great safety net for our community. But right now, nobody can do this alone. And we really need to bring the volunteer community together with the government and make it a really organic whole.
Arlington County Board is doing a remarkable job, as you said, making sure that every citizen is engaged. But what I want to say to you is I think that there's a lot of still very happy, optimistic people in Arlington.
Well, I think we've all seen it and probably experienced it, because almost everybody in Arlington by definition is connected. That's the kind of community we are in many ways. I think one of the most moving has been the way the PTAs have stepped up. I've been helping my daughter because she's over right by Randolph School, and some of the PTA folks there realized, over a month ago when school closed, that the school lunch for students was not going to be enough. Every student that needs a school lunch has at home a grandmother, a mother, a father, an aunt, an uncle, all of these people many of whom have lost their jobs. So watching what they've done, they put together on Fridays, they first did a food drive all week, then bagged it up, volunteers, and with social distancing, we started distributing bags of food to families. So it wasn't just a lunch here and a lunch there for the kids, which is great, but actually looking at the whole family.
Are you feeling optimistic?
I go back and forth. So we are on the cusp of a major change as a society, and now I'm talking outside of Arlington, basically the country and the world. I think what's clear is that all of the great religions of the world have always been right. The underlying theme is, treat other people the way you want to be treated, right? And we have for many times in human history, we haven't done a very good job on that. We say the right thing, but we haven't actually done it. And what this pandemic has done is made so clear the inequities that we've got in this society and how we are indeed all connected. And if we don't take care of the least of those among us, we're all going to get sick. And I'm very hopeful that this pandemic will show the changes we need to make in practically everything we do. Basic capitalism, I think, is a good thing as a kind of organizing economic principle, but you've got to have guardrails and make sure that everybody's got health care. You got to make sure that everybody's got a roof over their head. And that gets down to the whole and enough to eat, which gets to equity, which, I began this year in January with 3 themes. One of them was equity, which my colleague Christian Dorsey had last year as his theme as well as chair. The other, innovation, and the last one, resiliency, because you need equity and innovation to change and make this a more equitable society to become actually truly resilient, which of course gets into a lot of the climate issues that you're always championing, Marion, and really appreciate all the championing you have done with that issue. But so that when I'm feeling positive, that's where I think we'll go. But we're right on the cusp. We can either move forward to a much, much better world, which, as I say, is the foundation of all the great religions of the world, and actually live up to those principles and values, or we can get into a very dystopian place. And I hope we don't do that. I don't think we'll do that in Arlington, but Arlington is affected by everything around it. So it's really important that we all, as I say, everybody's saying this, we're in this together. We realize that.
But we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to be neighbors the whole time. So I want to thank all of you for watching Arlington Independent Media's Sustainable Scoop. Keep listening, keep sharing, and take care. We'll see you again soon. I'm Miriam Gennari. Back to the news.
And that's our show. We'll be back next week. Meanwhile, keep safe and be well. I'll let you in on a little secret. The video version is allowed over 28 minutes, but the radio version has to be only 26 minutes. So, the TV people will get to hear some nice instrumental music that the radio people, unfortunately, will miss. Here it is.